Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Busy Plugin Developer Series, Episode 0. And I'm very happy to see you here, well, from the comfort of our apartments in Germany for me in Munich. And I also have Jan from Hanover, also in Germany, our IntelliJ SDK Developer Advocate. And then we have Jacob, IntelliJ SDK Developer Advocate, connecting from Poland. And today we are going to be talking about their plugin development, mostly IntelliJ platform-based plugin development, and all the ways to start developing your first plugin and promoting your plugin and making sure that you get the most out of their tools and all their things provided by JetBrains to develop the plugins. So let's just get through some of the housekeeping first. And the first thing is that if you have some comments, just put them in their live chat on YouTube, and we are going to answer some of them along. And we'll also reserve some time at the end of the session for Q&A with all the speakers. And this webinar is going to be recorded, and the recording is going to be available very soon on YouTube. So if you miss, we are definitely going to email it to you and also put it on YouTube. So don't worry if you miss anything. You'll be able to go through it later as well. And let's go through the agenda for today. So there are a few things we are going to discuss. The first one is related to the IntelliJ Platform SDK, or Software Development Toolkit. All kinds of documentation and tools which will help you develop plugins for IntelliJ. And we also have the IntelliJ Platform Plugin Template, which is going to help you start up just in a matter of minutes with your first plugin. We are going to look through the useful resources for planning, developing, and deploying plugins on the marketplace and in your company as well. And then we are going to look at the marketplace and plugins promotion and how to make your plugin page stand out and make your plugin available for all the millions of developers using IntelliJ IDEA-based IDEs. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Jacob. And Jacob is our IntelliJ SDK Developer Advocate, and he's an enthusiast of web security and open source, and he loves building all kinds of things for the internet. And you maybe know him thanks to the .ignore plugin, which he's been developing as a developer of plugins for IntelliJ for many years. And later on, he joined us as a developer advocate. Welcome, Jacob.
Thank you, Misha. All right. So we're going to start with the IntelliJ SDK topic, which is quite broad because it's about creating plugins for the IntelliJ SDK, IntelliJ-based IDEs, which is not only the IntelliJ IDE itself, but also PHP Storm, Android Studio, C-Lion, ReSharper, and so on and so on. Together with Jan, we're focusing on helping you with creating a new plugins and maintaining the existing ones by providing all the documentation and tools focused around the whole development using the JVM-based languages like Java, Kotlin, or Scala, even Groovy. This year, we've been working on the project that was supposed to speed up the whole process of creating new plugins. Since mid of March, we've started a new GitHub repository project, which is called IntelliJ Platform Plugin Template, which you can quickly access via JBG URL. It will lead you to the GitHub repository. The first release of the template has happened at the end of June. And during the last 6 months, we've been released around 17, 18 new versions, fixing all the problems, implementing new features that you've been requesting for, or we've just figured out will help you creating new plugins. We got around 200 commits, 14 contributors, and almost 500 stars, which is quite nice achievement for me. The whole idea behind the IntelliJ Platform Plugin Template is to lower the entry threshold and let you start working on the actual implementation within a few minutes. I will go through the template itself in a minute, but now I would like to present you how to actually create the working plugin. Yeah, to do so, you need to use this template button, which will allow to create your own repository within your account on GitHub. So let's create an awesome plugin. Yeah, that's mostly it. Right now, GitHub is generating a new repository based on the plugin template, which you can also notice by this information on the top. Since it's based on GitHub, we've created a few workflows. The main one is the template cleanup workflow, which is right now taking care of adjusting the scaffold that we're working on to your name, GitHub account name, and clean up everything which is strongly related to the JetBrains or company keywords and so on to make the plugin more personalized. Yeah, probably right now. Yep, we got a new commit from this actions user, which is template cleanup. So since now we're able to clone this repository into our IDE, which also takes just a few clicks to get it working. That. And here we go. So on the left, we have completely new README, which is not the one that we provide you for getting known with the template and the general idea of building plugins and IntelliJ SDK. But here is a quick to-do list, which should lead you through the basic steps that you should follow to fulfill and make the repository fully working. But this is something, let's say, for the next steps of deploying publishing plugin. Right now, on the top, you can see 3 predefined actions. The first one, which is the one that we're interested in, is run plugin, which will actually run the plugin with the basic implementation that we have provided in the Kotlin language. Okay, it's on the second screen. Yeah. So we'll not open any projects right now, but we'll check the plugins list. And yeah, in the install tab, we can see that there is my awesome plugin already built and delivered to the IDE that we just ran. Yep. So that's mostly it regarding the creating and running your first plugin. The GitHub repository that we can go back to provides a full list of the first steps for the users that have never got in touch with our platform, but have some at least knowledge about developing in Java or Kotlin. Yeah, it's worth to mention that this template supports not only Kotlin, but Java as well. So instead of working within the SSL main Kotlin, you'll just have to create the Java directory, and that would be all, since we support both languages. Yeah, so getting started, we'll let you go through the whole setup that we provide, which is also a predefined Gradle configuration. So we are pre-configuring all the Kotlin Gradle IntelliJ plugin configuration and all the tooling that is significant and let's say required, nice to have in your plugin, which can simplify your workflow and provide better look and feel and during the development. We can quickly scroll down to the next steps because we're explaining all the properties that are already, let's say, predefined, pre-configured within the Gradle configuration. For more details, I would like just to suggest getting known with this reading file. The whole structure is very simple and focus on the SRC main Kotlin Java directories. We're providing the very small amount of implementation, which is just application and project services, and one simple listener to give you an insight that the plugin is actually working. And you can start digging through the SDK docs for more ideas, information, or resources that will help you to get in touch with the whole platform. Predefine run debug configurations. I've already mentioned that. Continuous integration. This is the minor part of the GitHub template and depends strongly on the GitHub platform and lets you to quickly cover the building, testing, verifying the plugin implementation before even delivering it to the marketplace platform. So thanks to that predefined workflows, you may be sure that you didn't miss anything and it will really work for the end users. The release workflow also simplified the releasing process. So right now, if we'll go back to the My Awesome plugin, here in the releases tab, probably it's too early, but going back, I can show you that in the releases tab, there is always a draft release prepared for the upcoming version, which you can simply edit and publish. So everything will go straight to the marketplace with no extra action needed. At the end of the README, you will notice the useful links, which are really useful. So at the first place, we have the SDK dev guide I've already mentioned, and marketplace quality guidelines. The first two are very important if you're going to deliver a high quality plugin, which means for sure your idea will be important for the end developers. Fingers crossed, so they will hopefully use it. But it's mostly about how you should pick the right plugin name, some few words about the user experience, publishing plugin, which is, to be honest, covered by the GitHub Actions, and all the information about logo, screenshots that you may provide. Yeah, everything to attract end users to get and install the plugin that you're working on. Yeah, there are also some UI guidelines that you might be interested in. Paid plugins, because Marketplace, but Misha will tell you more about that, also offers to the possibility of selling the plugins that we'll create. Some code samples, and yeah, also quite important one, the JetBrains Platform Slack, which gathers all the community of the other plugin developers that for sure will help you mostly resolve the problems that we'll face. Yeah, that's mostly it, I guess. So that project is focusing mostly on the beginners, but we didn't forget about the more experienced users as well. I can say right now that in a few days, since now, we're going to release a new blog series, which will cover, yeah, with quite nice name, I suppose, plugins healing, which covers all the problems, struggles that we'll probably face during the maintenance of the plugins, aligning the plugin implementation to the latest IDEs. So yeah, since how to say it, you probably will face some problems with compatibilities with the latest IDEs. We're providing yeah, the plugin template itself and Gradle IntelliJ plugin also comes from the JetBrains, are right now integrated with the plugin verifier, which is a tool provided also by the marketplace that checks and analyzes your plugin build against the specific IDEs, for example, the latest ones or EAPs. Thanks to that tool, you will be able to verify if there will be any problems with deprecated methods, usages of internal APIs, and so on, that should be addressed and fixed. Plugins Healing will also try to guide you how to make your plugin dynamic, how to deal with some issues regarding the plugin unloading, using, for example, the URKit, and analyzing the heap dumps provided by the Gradle plugin. Yeah, I hope that it would be quite exciting, and it will help with the problems that you probably struggle with. Yeah, I think that's all from my side right now. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you for all the insights. And I'm sure that all of our viewers already going to GitHub to get the template and they start developing their first plugin for IntelliJ. So just tomorrow, we're going to get a couple of hundreds new plugins introduced on the marketplace. And right now, I would like to invite Jan, who is your IntelliJ SDK developer advocate. And he's been developing the plugins for IntelliJ since, I guess, it's 2004. So you're actually one of the first people to develop plugins for IntelliJ Platform. It is 20 years old. And if I recall correctly, you started from the plugins contest we had like 16 years ago, right?
Yes, that's true. Yeah, actually, that was one of my first plugins for supporting the Struts framework back then. Well, that's a really long time ago. Anyway, so today I want to cover a bit the tooling that we have in place for plugin developers. We will take a look first at some of the basic features available in the plugin DevKit that comes with IntelliJ IDEA. But I will also highlight some of the new features that we have provided in 2020.3, so just recently. And then we have something very nice and powerful to share, which is the IntelliJ Platform Explorer, a new tool we released just a couple of days ago. And my part will be concluded by telling you a bit more what we have in plan for the next year for plugin developers, before I hand over to Michael, who will be talking about the marketplace. So, plugin DevKit features. Once you create a new plugin or you used the template that Jacob just showed, one of the files that is generated and available is the plugin.xml file, which is the plugin descriptor for plugins. It basically lists all the metadata that your plugin requires. For example, the vendor, the name of the plugin, a description, and also a number of so-called extension points, which are basically callbacks that the IntelliJ platform provides for your plugin to augment the existing functionality in the IDE. And we can already see that there are some problems in this file here. So that is provided by the plugin DevKit plugin. So that's the plugin for developing plugins. Sorry, but that's just the way it is. And the first error we can see here is that the name that I chose for my plugin here is containing a word that it shouldn't contain. So there's a number of inspections here, just like inspections in Java code or any other language supported in the IDE, and they will help you also to provide correct and good metadata for your plugin. Okay, so now we have fixed the name of our plugin, and we can scroll down a bit. We have here a description for the plugin, which will be displayed in the plugin manager as well as on the marketplace website, for example. We declare some dependencies on stuff that our plugin needs to run successfully. Then we have the extensions list, which is usually the biggest part of most plugins, defining all the extension points that your plugin implements. And on the bottom here, we have all the actions. These are actions which are available in the user interface, and they can be invoked via menus or via toolbars, for example. So one thing to be really aware of is that the editor for the plugin XML.file is really quite intelligent, just like any other code editor or editor for other languages or configuration files. For example, we have code inside for nearly every attribute or tag here. We can navigate to declarations, for example. We have code completion here, and in other places as well. So, for example, we know about all the extension points and their properties, and we can also guide you to specify the valid attribute values for the extension points that you want to declare. Another thing that is quite useful here is the structure view here in this tool window, which is also a specialized view for the plugin XML file. So we can nicely see the basic structure of my very simple plugin here. A real plugin, of course, would be a couple of screens usually. So navigation does not only work by control clicking in the plugin XML. So for example, I can now navigate to the implementation of this extension point, which is just a dummy class I put here, and I have to wait for the IDE to finish analyzing. I don't know why it takes so long. Okay, now it has analyzed my very complicated extension point, and we can see this plugin icon here on the so-called editor gutter, and this allows us to see the declaration as a tooltip, and we can also click here and go back to the declaration of this extension point in the plugin XML. So you can navigate between the metadata file and the code very easily. We can also invoke documentation. So when I hover over this extension point here, we see a dedicated view for documenting this extension point. We can see all the code declarations here, and we also get in this section, we get all the attributes which are available for configuring this extension point and their types. And further down below, we also include the Java doc of the extension point implementation class that the plugin developer must implement to achieve the functionality of this extension. So this is very useful when you explore, for example, existing plugins and you want to know what an extension point is about. You can also control click on the extension point tag here, and it will get you to the declaration here, and then you can navigate further to the actual class also by this way. There's a number of dedicated inspections also for code. For example, here we have a so-called inspection. An inspection is a background highlighting process running in the editor, which will highlight your code in semantic ways. IntelliJ ships with, I think, a few thousands of bundled inspections. This is also a very common functionality that plugins implement. And we can see that the class name is highlighted in yellow. And there are two problems, really. First, we didn't register this inspection in the metadata file yet, and we also didn't provide an inspection description. And that can be done by using this quick fix here, which will generate a step description for the inspection, which is necessary because the inspection needs some kind of description in the user interface later so that users understand what the description is actually doing. And here we see another new icon, and that is the ability to navigate between the inspection and the corresponding description file that was just created for us automatically. So in general, we can see there's a number of nice navigation functionality here available. So always take a look for editor gutter icons here. They allow you to do this cross-code navigation very easily. Coming to actions, we also have some nice support here to help you configuring actions properly. So for example, we want to reuse an existing mapped keyboard shortcut for our dummy action here. And this one can be specified by declaring a use shortcut of, which allows us to reuse an existing actions shortcut. And we see here the list of all actions available, and we also see their action icon, so it's a bit easier maybe to recognize what this specific action is about. Again, you can control click here, navigate to the declaration of that action, and then easily go to the action implementation if you want to learn more about it, for example. All right, that's just a very quick introduction in the basic features of the plugin XML editing and the navigation in DevKit projects. So one thing I wanted to highlight in this sample here is a new feature in 2020.3 when declaring dependencies on other plugins which you want to extend or which your plugin relies on. They must be declared in your Gradle file. So for example, here I have declared a dependency on the copyright plugin, which is a bundled plugin in IntelliJ. And we want to use one of the extension points that the copyright plugin provides us. And I've already put in the extension point declaration here, but I missed to declare the dependency also in the plugin .xml descriptor. And this is something new that we discover now right in the editor. And we also offer you a quick fix to add the missing depends declaration here. So now everything is set up correctly, and the only thing that remains is defining all the necessary attributes that this extension point needs. This was a very common pitfall for plugin developers because they forgot to put in this depends declaration in the plugin XML in addition, which is required for it to work properly. So one last thing that I want to show in the IDE before we go to the Platform Explorer is the so-called UI Inspector, which is an internal action that you can enable during development, and that allows us to control-click any element inside the IDE. And now we can browse the whole swing hierarchy of components and inspect them. We can also see the underlying action, for example, the action ID, for example, for toolbar buttons, and so on. So this is a very useful tool that you should use when you develop any kind of UI stuff, or you want to inspect how an existing UI is implemented in the IDE. Okay, switching it off again, just to be sure. And now I want to switch over to the IntelliJ Platform Explorer in the browser. And that is this page. So what's the idea behind this? The idea is really to allow plugin developers to explore existing implementations of extension points in existing plugins and use them as a guideline or reference or inspiration to use the same extension points or understand how the functionality is actually implemented in other plugins. So we can filter by the implementation language of the plugin, and we can also filter by the build system used of the plugin. And all this data is taken from the plugins marketplace. So there's actually a couple of thousand plugins hosted there. And a lot of them also provide sources for the plugin, and if they specify the sources and if they're hosted on GitHub, we will scan them and provide them in this tool for research. So for example, if I discover an interesting extension point, I can just quickly type the name here and choose the matching extension points. And now I get the list of all the plugins which use the same extension point. Maybe I want to take a look at this plugin, and I can see that this plugin uses the file type extension point in 3 implementations. I can click here, and it brings me directly to the GitHub search to navigate directly to the actual implementation. So that's a very convenient way of exploring existing plugins by using the extension points. It is also integrated in the extension point list, which is a page recently added to the SDK documentation, where we list all the extension points of the plugins which are bundled in IntelliJ IDEA Community Edition, as well as all the Android extension points. And we can simply click here on the name of the extension point, and it will just open the Platform Explorer and preset the filter to the chosen extension point. And you can also navigate to the actual source definition directly from this list. And this list is also very useful to explore all the available extension points. Again, you can use auto-completion and QuickDoc in the plugin XML, but this is a very nice and convenient way to explore extension points, for example, by completion. So these are all the extension points related to completion, and they are all available right here in this list to explore for you. We are thinking about adding more functionality possibly to the Platform Explorer tool later next year. So if you have any cool ideas, we would really like to hear about them. Okay, one quick mention about another feature available in 2020.3 is the Shared Indexes plugin, which comes bundled with Ultimate Edition. What it does is basically download indexes from a CDN, and this also is now supported for all the IntelliJ Platform targets, both 2019 and 2020 releases. So whenever you start a new plugin, and you have the Shared Indexes plugin enabled or installed additionally in the Community Edition, you don't have to build the indexes for the IntelliJ platform locally, but it will just download them from the internet, which saves you quite some time. Okay, coming back to the next topic I want to quickly cover is what's in for 2021 next year. So 3 big areas. First one is plugin DevKit. We have some nice ideas to improve the support for managing actions. So those are the things that are actually visible in the UI, configured by the actions tag in your plugin XML, and as well as improving the support for managing listeners, which is a concept also very highly used in plugins. And the other area we want to explore next year is to have a better code insight in your Gradle build scripts when it comes to IntelliJ configuration. We are using a dedicated Gradle plugin, and we want to offer some more code insight for the configuration of this plugin. The second area is the SDK documentation website. So that's what I have open right here. And this is the main resource, the main documentation that we have. And I can show you a quick preview of what's coming. We are going to release a rebranded version of the documentation next year. The biggest feature is, of course, the ability to switch to dark mode now, but we have a very nice full text search available here, and we also plan to fill in all the missing topics next year very heavily. So there's lots of new content coming, as well as new and expanded code samples. We also plan to cover extension points in a series of posts where we will just present interesting extension points that you might want to consider implementing in your plugin. Some kind of, stuff that we just want to show off what's possible to build actually, and document a bit extension points which we think are interesting. So the last thing I want to talk about is the community around plugin development, and we have started the Slack channels this year, and it has been a huge success. We have more than 1,300 people signed up during just a couple of months, and from all of JetBrains, we really want to thank everyone involved on this Slack channel here. It is really a great community of plugin developers helping each other. Of course, there's people from JetBrains there also helping with questions and trying to help people get forward with their plugins or just discuss ideas for plugins, for example. So if you haven't signed up to the Slack community, please do so. We are really very welcoming, and everyone is there to help you. We also want to continue this webinar from today with further episodes next year. So I hope there will be a lot of interesting stuff to talk about also next year. And as my last point, I want to invite everyone to let us know what you are missing and what your ideas or wishes are regarding plugin development. We really like to interact with the community and try to help you getting started with your plugin plans. So that's all from me. And I want to hand over to Michael, who will now be talking about the Plugins Marketplace.
And I guess you never can go wrong with a dark theme, right, Jan? Just
no,
look how many
never can. No. Oh, it's so beautiful.
I guess that now we have to introduce the dark mode for the marketplace as well. Thank you, Jan. Thanks a lot for all the insights around the tools and the coding. That's really useful for all the plugin development.
You're welcome.
And thank you. And now I would like to switch to some of the marketplace related things. And I'm Michael. I'm product manager at the JetBrains Marketplace, and working with our product teams on making sure that we have a lot of plugins, a lot of high quality plugins, and they're making sure that our developers of third-party plugins are happy as well. So this is the plugin marketplace you see on the screen. That's plugins.jetbrains.com, and that is the solution we have in order to host and distribute all kinds of plugins or extensions for JetBrains products. This is the web interface, but also you have, of course, the in-product implementation, like in IntelliJ, you have the plugin manager, which you can go and browse all the plugins, features plugins, and install them right away. So I'm going to be talking about what can we do with the marketplace and how we can benefit as plugin developers from the marketplace. Some of the key information. Marketplace supports all kinds of JetBrains products. Today, we are mostly talking about IntelliJ Platform, so it's IntelliJ IDEA and IntelliJ IDEA-based IDs, including third-party IDs. So for example, Android Studio by Google also relies on the marketplace for the plugin distribution. And then marketplace also supports .NET and Theme Tools, but it's not the main topic of today's discussion. And we do support both free and paid plugins and extensions, which means that you can load both free and paid plugins, and they will be on the marketplace distributed to all of our, I think, more than 8 or even 9 million developers using our tools. And as of 2019, we don't have data for 2020 yet, but it's going to be released in the beginning of the next year. We had 92 million downloads of your plugins for IntelliJ, all the IntelliJ-based IDs. And then at this point, we have more than 6,000 plugins hosted on the marketplace for IntelliJ. And that was roughly more than 1,000 new plugins in 2019 and more than 15,000 new updates for the plugins in 2019. That's quite impressive numbers. And that is how the first step looks like when you would like to upload the plugin you just developed using the amazing tools Jan and Jacob presented to us in the first part of the webinar. That is the way how you upload it to the JetBrains Marketplace. You provide the distribution and the license and the tags, and then you hit upload, and the plugin is uploaded to the marketplace and goes to the moderation queue. I wanted to tell you what is actually happening next, because that's not something we talk about a lot, but before the plugin gets into the marketplace being served to all the users, we actually do have a round of moderation and quality assurance on the plugin on the JetBrains side, because we need to make sure that the plugins we distribute are secure and they're high quality and they're useful for the users. So first thing we do is the automatic compatibility verification using the IntelliJ plugin verifier. And I think Jacob already shown you the links to this tool. That's their tool which is checking the plugin on the bytecode level, and they're checking the compatibility with their specific version of the ID. So if there is some since until builds for the IntelliJ plugin which are really not compatible on the API level, we are going to tell you, and we are working on adding more automating checks to your plugin, which are going to be providing you feedback about what is happening. Then we do a round of manual testing. Shout out to Lydia and Albert in our moderation team, who are looking into each plugin submitted to the plugins repository and making sure that it works well and as expected. Then we do the marketing information review, all the logos and all the descriptions. And there we also do the manual approval of plugin features, like support for specific file types. And you can find more information in the marketplace approval guidelines. They are public and transparent. This is how their editing process looks like. As soon as you uploaded the plugin, you get all the options to manage it, like get the statistics or change some of the fields or provide different tags. And I'm going to be showing some of the examples on the Fortran plugins here. So really, how to make the plugin successful? Because there are more than 6,000 plugins, how to improve the experience of the users, how to make your plugin really stand out. I decided to build my part of the presentation around some tips and tricks on how to actually achieve more. than average, and get your plugin really successful, and what activities can bring you to make your plugin page stand out. So the first one is, well, I actually have background in marketing, so don't ignore adding marketing assets. Never ignore. There is a reason we put listings on, like, please follow the guidelines, put the marketing assets, because they really matter. If you don't have a logo, if you don't have a description, if you don't have features of the plugin described online, nobody will be able to find it. So the first tip I would like to give you is add the plugin logo. Take some time and add it there. Add the screenshots. You can add GIFs, and there are different kinds of videos, and there you can add the full description so that people can actually go online and find your plugin there and navigate there and install it to their IDE. Make sure to add what's new in your plugin and usage instructions so that people can understand how to use it, and they can understand what has been updated in the plugin recently, because you release a new version, and they deserve to know why do they need to upgrade to the next version. And generally, you should add as much information as possible. If there is an issue tracker, add it. If there is a source code, add it, because other plugin vendors will be able to rely on your source code and use the Plugin Explorer to find some of the things you have developed in your plugin. And if it's open source, reuse part of your code. It is very important. And then I would definitely recommend you to choose the unique plugin name and promote it, because your plugin is your product. It is a brand, and you need to support this brand with all their marketing collateral and all the things you can, and you need to promote it. And you need to treat the plugin as your own product. And then there are a lot of things you can do around the customer success, because all the plugin users are your customers, and you should work with the reviews and the ratings on the marketplace side, because users go ahead and provide you information about something which works well or works not so well to you, and they expect you to look into that and fix some of the things. And the plugin features should be probably covered in a bit more detail, because they're very nice and they're very good to promote your plugin within the IDE. That's actually one of not so many ways to promote plugins right in the IDE, because we don't want to distract the users too much. And their plugin features is very convenient, organic, if you like, way to promote them in the IDE. So plugin features are different things implemented by your plugin. For example, support for some file types. On the screen, you can see plugin features for Kotlin. So for example, they support KT file type, file extension, and as soon as you open a KT file in the IDE which doesn't support it, you are going to be prompted with your compatible plugin, if there is one, for this file type. And we also support the configuration types, like for run configurations and so on. And that is how it would look like in the IDE. So it is very important to implement those things, and there you can find more information in the documentation on how to implement each kind of these plugin features. And then you publish it, and it's determined by the plugin marketplace, and then it's moderated by our moderators, and then it's live and rolled out to all the users of the IDEs all around the world. And then additional thing which you can do, especially if you have a few plugins, is to start building the brand of your organization. So here you can see the JetBrains brand and JetBrains organization on the marketplace, and you can create one as well. You create organization page, and then you can describe the services you do. You can add the members, which helps you manage the permissions for your plugins, and you can see all the statistics and information about the plugins on a single page. Another thing which can help you put more additional content online is custom pages and custom content. That is something available for all the plugin developers, and you can just go ahead and create some custom content, and very soon it's going to be also the documentation. So in addition to the custom pages like that, you can also add the custom pages and later the documentation. And that is how it looks like for our partner, Hybris Integration. They created some of the custom pages to describe some specific features, and that is very useful to put it online, and then the users will be able to find it in Google and other search engines. And of course, you need to take care of the plugin user experience and their plugin user interface. And here the general advice is to follow what we have in the IntelliJ platform, because the users expect you to match UI and UX of the platform, and they expect you to follow the IntelliJ platform UI guidelines, and they expect you to provide information in English because most of the users would see the ID in English, and they expect you to take advantage of all the things platform provides, like keyboard shortcuts. And they expect you not to break their experience in the IDE. So they want you to get their UX very similar to what you have in the IDE. And then the users will have a lot of pleasure while working with the plugin you developed. And they will not go away. They will continue updating, and they will love your plugin. And then, of course, when you develop the plugin, there are a lot of channels you can use to promote it. First is the GitHub, especially if it's open source. You can promote your GitHub page and tell people about it. You can use the social media engagements. You can use communities, media, and of course, JetBrains channels as well. We often work with their plugin vendors to promote their plugins and make sure that we can accommodate all of them together with JetBrains tools and see where is the fit and how we can get this joint marketing co-promotion from both sides. And talking about the promotion, you should not forget about the embeddable content we have. We have the cards, like the one on the top, plugin card, which you can embed to any kind of websites. And then we have a button, Get from Marketplace. And it actually, the one you can see on the screen here on the right top, this one will suggest you installing into the IDE. If the IDE is running, it will be able to understand what is the version, and just with a single click, you can install it to the IDE. So if you have your own website for the plugin, make sure to add this kind of functionality there as well. And then one more thing is that as we have paid plugins, you can sell on the marketplace, and that basically provides you a platform for licensing out of the box and sales out of the box, and all the business frameworks for processing payments and issuing licenses, and even the offline on-premises license server provided by JetBrains. So you don't think about licensing of your plugin at all. You focus on the plugin development, and you integrate the framework into the plugin, which is going to be connecting to JetBrains servers for all the sales and so on. So that's a very useful thing to do. And if you didn't consider yet doing some paid plugins, we definitely ready to work with you on that. There are more than 65 plugins on the marketplace already, and it's been launched 1.5 years ago, 65 paid plugins. So we are growing, and we're definitely expecting you to join us. And with that, you can build your business on top of IntelliJ Platform. Let it be free plugins business or let it be paid plugin business. We are ready to work with you, and we are ready to invest into the marketplace as a platform. Next year, we are going to be working a lot on the analytics part, both in product and outside of the product. Basically, all the funnel of getting the information from users. How do they come? What do they download? How do they use the plugins? We would like to build all the statistics, and we would like to enhance the experience for plugin vendors even further. And with that, we are done with the major part of our webinar. There are a couple of links I would like to share. The first one is our SDKs mentioned by my colleagues, and then the marketplace itself, the Slack, and their Twitter. But I see that my colleagues already posted most of the links in their YouTube live chat, so you can get them from there as well. And it seems that it's time to get some questions. It seems there are quite a lot of them. So let's get all of our speakers here and try to answer as many as we can. So the first question is about the internationalization of your paid plugin, but generally any plugin. So should we internationalize the plugins for different languages supported by IntelliJ Platform? Is it going to increase the adoption, for example, in China, if we start releasing plugin in Mandarin in addition to English? I think Jan has an answer. Is it correct?
Yes. So in general, if your plugin is going to live a bit longer, and if you expect a huge user base, and who doesn't, we highly suggest to use internationalization from the very beginning on. You can define message bundles using the properties files in your plugin. And since we have actually worked on localizing the IntelliJ platform itself, The whole tooling support for this area has been improved a lot in 2020.3. So all the internationalizable properties, including the attributes from extension points, are now fully supported in the plugin XML editor. So tooling-wise, it is quite easy to use internationalization across your whole plugin. And it is really not a big additional effort. So I would highly advise to do it, yes.
And I would add that China is actually one of the major countries, well, Greater China is one of the major regions where we get new ID users right now. At least as we see on the marketplace statistics, there are more and more plugin users there. I think right now it's #1 by number of downloads and usages for plugins, at least. And for the IDE, that is also like in top 5 in terms of downloads and usages. So yeah, Mandarin is definitely one of the languages to focus on. But as JetBrains, we also see a lot of interest in from South Korea. So we also have the IntelliJ localization to Korean and the Japanese and Mandarin. So there is quite a lot of focus in Asia in this regards. But yeah, it seems that this would be very useful. Thank you, Jan. And the second question I see is about increasing the adoption of a paid plugin in larger organization and how Marketplace can help here. So in general, when we have a paid plugin and we work with the plugin vendors as an extension of their team in terms of sales. So we have their sales team at JetBrains and we have account managers. And if you're talking about the adoption of a paid plugin in a larger company, which is already a JetBrains customer, it is quite possible that we have an account manager on JetBrains side to help out with it. So we might have some contacts. But even if it's not the case, there is a strategy we followed at JetBrains from early days, and the strategy is bottom-up approach. So we start with developers. We make sure that the developers like the product, and they recommend it to their colleagues and their managers, and then the company starts to adopt more and more. So I personally see that a lot of paid plugins and free plugins can be adopted like that in bigger companies. And then we have a question which has been asked a few times, and that's about their discounts or free licenses for IntelliJ IDEA for plugin developers. Jan, Jacob, do you have any program like that?
Sorry, could you repeat that question, please?
Yes, the question is about discounts and their free licenses for JetBrains IDEs.
Yes, as far as I know, we don't have a special program for that at this moment. In general, if your plugin is open source and if it is fulfilling some of the requirements that we set, you can apply for an open source license for all of our products in JetBrains. There's a page for that on the JetBrains.com website. So you basically just fill out some details about your project, and then we will review it and provide you with free licenses. So that is one way to use commercial IDEs in your plugin development. The other is to just use the evaluation license, which will work for, I think, 30 minutes. So that might be enough for some plugin developers to just test out the plugin and make sure that it actually works, for example, in one of the IDEs that you don't use for regular testing.
Thank you, Jan. I see 2 questions which are very quick to be answered. The first one is, does JetBrains take care of the VAT taxes and all the similar stuff for the marketplace and paid plugins? Yes, we do. It's all taken care of. And the second one, which we can answer really quick, is about the time for the plugin review process. So the first time it is 2 business days. Later on, it's sometimes even faster because we need to update. We need to approve the plugin update and not test the whole plugin whatsoever. But normally we have it here 2 business days as a year deadline for us, internal deadline. Okay.
Okay, I see some questions which I would like to answer.
Go ahead.
So Martin Zafriel, I hope I pronounced that correctly. What can we recommend about conflicting plugins? There is one solution, there is one extension point called plugins replacement, which allows you to notify the user that your plugin is a possible replacement of another plugin. There is not really a possibility for plugins to denote incompatible plugins in the metadata. So the only other way would be to check for the existence of another conflicting plugin in your code, for example, on a startup, and show some kind of notification to the user and enable him to act by, for example, disabling the other conflicting plugin.
There is also one question from, sorry, go on.
Okay, I'm just trying to keep the order from the chat. So a question from Adrian: how can we see the number of times per version? I can see it in the charts on the plugins repository. I don't know if the feature is publicly available, but there's a filter above the graph which allows you to filter by version. But I think that's the version of the plugin and not the version of the IDE where it is installed, as far as I know. I'm not sure if we plan on delivering such a filter possibility from Marketplace side.
Right now, it's not on the roadmap. We need to look into that. The one thing we definitely have is the analysis we did, I think, in the beginning of this year in regards to how many IDE versions back you need to support as a plugin vendor. And our current answer as of 2020 is 3 major versions. Is like you're covering somewhat like 90%, 95% of users and customers with 3 major versions back of the IDE. But we will see if we can add this feature to be more dynamic here.
Okay, there is also a question from...
Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. There is also a question from Johannes about specifying the until build in the plugin XML file. By default, you don't specify the until build. It's, let's say, limited automatically to the since build dot star. So if you specify the 203, it will be 203 dot star. So everything until 204. You can disable the until build by providing the empty string, but it's not recommended, since you never know if you release a plugin and it will still work in the further releases, further IDEs. So it's rather better to avoid disabling it and specifying its exact range of supported IDs.
Thank you.
Okay, next question from Pavlo. Is there any support in Slack channel if you want to build a custom plugin? Yes, that's exactly what the Slack channel is about. So if you have any questions, both technical as well as general questions about plugin development, you are welcome to ask them there, and you will hopefully get some insight from the other team members there.
Okay, I think the next question is from Luis about in-plugin purchases. There are no guidelines about it. Like, you can do it. Nothing prevents you from doing that. There is no support on JetBrains side, at least as of now. We are looking into the ways of how to actually make the purchase of the plugin or the purchase of the IDE from within the IDE, but there is no implementation yet. So you have to go to the shop on the website and then purchases it there. But if you would like to do some in-plugin purchases on your side using any of the payment providers you work with, is totally possible. There is no restriction on that from our side.
Question from Mikulai, I hope. Do we have any extension points for plugin usage analytics? Quick answer, no, we don't. We have actually been discussing this very topic because there seems to be a big need for many plugins to collect and analyze such data. So I hope we will be able to share maybe some guidelines or even some built-in solution for collecting such data. Be aware that collecting data is a very delicate topic, as you must obey to all the laws and regulations about data processing in various countries. So please don't just go ahead and collect data. Make sure that you follow the requirements, both from legal and user's point of view.
And I would probably elaborate here that we are discussing some in-product help in this regards to be implemented in 2021 from the both IntelliJ side and the marketplace side, but there is no decision about how the solution is going to look like. But yeah, there are a lot of complications, as Jan mentioned.
Okay, next question from Asher. Is there a way to make a plugin continue to work? In general, yes. It depends basically on the attribute of your until build version, which depends really, your choice on what you set there initially depends really on a lot of factors. I can't go into details right now. We generally recommend to release one version per major platform just to be safe. In the worst case, basically, you change the until build version and upload the same plugin once more, so it will be available for the next platform version. I think it's a pretty easy way and also a very safe way, because you can make sure that you avoid any incompatibility with the later version that wasn't available when the plugin was released. I think that's a question for Michael, probably.
Yeah, I was just answering that in the chat. So you can do,
Okay.
you can write to marketplace at jetbrains.com, and we will look into that. You can specifically ask to forward it to Mikhail, which is my name, and I'll let him will pass it to me, and we will discuss it. I'll put the emails to the YouTube chat as well.
What is the best way of logging in IDEA plugin? We have a built-in logger functionality in the platform. I think the class is just called logger, if I remember correctly. You will find plenty of logging statements in IntelliJ community sources, so you can take a look there on how to do it. So it will just log to the idea.log file that the IDE uses by default. Question by Kamo Ken. Do we have more documentation on EBNF? I guess this is related to the grammar kit, which is another tool which we didn't even cover today for developing custom language support in the IDEs. Yes, we are aware that this is a complicated topic, especially if you are new to language development and if you haven't built a compiler in your life before. It is a very daunting topic. So we have plans to augment the documentation and make it a bit more easy for people new to scanners and parsers to understand the concepts right. What I would recommend if you're just starting to develop a custom language plugin is to try and find an existing plugin for languages which is as similar as possible to the language that you want to implement, and see if they are using the BNF grammar kit solution, and basically start copy pasting from there. It usually works quite well up to a certain degree. At least it will help you get started.
The next one, I guess, is for me, is about your one-star reviews on their paid plugins pages, because people don't realize that the plugin is free. sorry, that the plugin is paid, and that's why they give the bad rating. Interesting question. We need to talk to our user experience team and designers. Yeah, because we try to kind of prevent such situation by putting the buy button instead of the get button, and they're putting the information about pricing on top in the tabs. And also recently we introduced the changes in the IDE, so you can actually see right inside the IDE that the plugin you are going to install is paid, or if it used to be free and it's becoming paid from the next version, you're going to get a notification about that. But I guess that with the reviews, you meant specifically the web page. I'll talk to the team and we'll see what we can do. If you follow up in their issues on UTrack or in Slack with us, then I'll be able to provide you more details on the next steps. Let's see how big the problem is first.
There is also a question from Hasangi. How to write test cases with MOOC data to test the plugin. In general, the IntelliJ platform testing infrastructure is not tied to any specific test framework, and we're using JUnit, TestNG, Cucumber for testing different parts, so it's up to you. There's also one other question about the IDE scripting console. Will we add more documentation on that? We've been discussing that internally already, and this is quite interesting area to explore, but this is also quite risky to deal with the IDE scripting console in the live IDE that we work on during the day, because you may kind of mess up some things. Probably we'll add some few paragraphs, I bet, about that, to introduce the general idea and how to get the current project or current editor, which is probably already covered by GIST, attached somewhere in the IntelliJ documentation. But to be honest, we'll see. I don't want to abandon this area, this topic still, but I'm not yet sure how we'll proceed with that. But stay tuned. Thank you.
Okay, I think we skipped that question. How to deal with SDK changes between versions. You don't necessarily need to provide multiple versions of your plugin. It depends if there's a binary incompatibility or not, which you can check using the plugin verifier. The plugin marketplace will also run these verifications for you automatically once you upload your plugin, so you won't miss them. We usually recommend to upgrade in steps from one platform to the next platform release and not try to skip multiple releases in between, because there will be deprecations on the way, and if you skip some versions, you might just miss them, and the instructions on the Java doc on how to migrate to a new API. We try to document all the breaking API changes in the SDK documentation in the appendix. There's a huge list of known broken incompatibilities that should help you move between the different versions more easily. Another related question is how to deal with supporting multiple versions which are incompatible. At the same time, we usually recommend to use branching and release from dedicated branches targeting the different platforms once there is a binary incompatibility that you cannot work around in your code.
Thank you. And then there was a question about your the episode 1 of Busy Plugin Developer Series. And that is very good that you asked. That seems that you probably like that, or you try to mark the date not to attend the webinar. So for us, we would like to make it a regular thing. And we don't know the schedule yet, when it's going to be the next one. We need to figure out what the topics are. So if you have some feedback on what topics would be the most interesting for you for the next series, for the next episode of the Busy Plugin Developer online, then we will be very appreciating your advice there. But I guess that we should be back with the next webinar sometime in the first quarter of 2021. I know that Jacob and Jan might kill me because we didn't discuss it. And also we have our marketing manager, Valerie, on the call to organize this. So for us, with Jacob and Jan, well, we at least don't need to organize it. So I hope that we'll be able to deliver the next episode, first quarter. If there is more content, if there are some questions, just send it to us in Slack, and we'll make sure to schedule it to one of the next webinars or blog posts.
Yes, I'm okay with that. Yes, we actually plan to do. I think roughly one per quarter next year. So yeah, let us know what you want to learn about, and of course we hope that we have enough interesting news to share. Let's continue with some more questions. Are there any plans for native LSP support? Not at this moment. There is one issue in IDEA backlog project in UTrack. There is an existing third-party solution for working with language support protocol. I haven't used it myself. Apparently it works. But there are no plans from JetBrains at this moment to support LSP natively in the IDE. I think that's one for Michael.
Yes, I already answered that in the comments, but yes, we will be adding additional statistics and analytics. That's our top priority for 2021. There are a few major directions. The first one is in-product analytics. That's mostly about usages of the plugin. That's the first. The second one is specific features usages. So we would be able to report the usages of, let's say, this action or that action through JetBrains and get the statistics. This one is a bit more sensitive and they're complicated, but the usages, general usages of the plugin should be quite simple, and we are quite sure we will deliver it quite soon. And then there is our web analytics, like pass you information from the Google Analytics, and for paid plugins, we are going to extend the stuff you can do around the sales analytics we are getting from the sales system. So these are the major directions, and it's definitely going to be in 2021. Also, I answered on the roadmap. The roadmap for Marketplace will be published in January. We have a planning right now, and as soon as we are done with the planning, we will prepare some public blog post, and I guess it should be early January.
This is an interesting idea from Pavlo. If we have some recommended plugins for looking at to learn about features, we currently don't have such rating in that sense. When you use the IntelliJ Platform Explorer, currently plugins implemented by JetBrains are marked with a small JetBrains icon. So I would suggest, if you find multiple results, to look at those first, because they are usually more up to date and using the recommended approaches. Another great source is, of course, the IntelliJ community sources themselves, because they are always up to date and basically highly active. So anything that is very new is more or less certain to be found in the community sources. Yes, Raphael, this is actually something that we have been considering as well. Maybe we have some hands-on coding in one of the next episodes. Thank you for your idea.
And then there is a question about the surveys to define the direction of the marketplace. Yes, we should, and we plan to. So right now we have a backlog of the features which we know we have to implement for sure, and in fact, a lot of those have been coming for us, well, at least in terms of the paid plugins. For all the paid plugins, we do the interviews, like the yearly interviews, and we get the feedback. And we already had some interviews with the free plugin vendors as well. And there we have some backlog of things we have to do, and everyone is talking about. And there, when we implement that, we would like to gather more ideas and gather more priorities. Yeah, and for that, we will do surveys and more plugin vendor interviews next year. If you have some specific needs or would like to talk about that, you can reach out to me on Slack or by email. Yeah, and we will schedule it, discuss with the team, and get all the feedback passed. We are very transparent. We are not a big team. So that's Marketplace, and then we have SDK team with Jan and Jacob, and we are very open, transparent. You can always talk to us about any directions you would like us to take, and we'll be glad to discuss it anytime.
Cedric asking about the PSI and a walkthrough in a language plugin. The SDK documentation has a full walkthrough of how to build a language plugin. That is part 7, custom languages. There's a tutorial covering this whole process there. And I will post a link right now in the chat from the SDK docs. In the appendix, there are some webinars, recorded webinars, which also cover this area. So maybe that's a nice addition to get started with custom language development, to watch the webinar and then try to follow the tutorial from the SDK documentation. In general, building custom language support is quite an advanced topic in general. So we usually advise to learn a bit about the basics first before jumping into custom language support. But it is quite doable.
And I think that was the last question we have. And there we are already running over time, so I think we will not delay any further. And I would like to thank everyone who joined us today. All the amazing questions, really great crowd, great discussions. And thanks to Jan and Jacob for all your time tonight with us on this webinar. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
And bye. See you in episode 1.
See you in episode 1. Bye-bye.